Good, evening, morning, afternoon, whatever time it is when you're listening to this. I hope it's good. We are back for kind of an impromptu episode of how we got here because it is the playoffs, NFL, and I'm not gonna give it away of who we're fans of right now, but it's a little bit different than kind of what we've been doing. We're going to continue, in future episodes to talk, discuss, the origin of things and the evolve, how things evolved into where they're at today. But we're not going to spend any time on that because we're too excited about the NFL playoffs. I am one of your hosts, Jamie, and we've got Paul here today to discuss the NFL playoffs.
Great to be here, Jay. And one of the things we had talked about in past episodes, we want to keep this fun. We want to keep this entertaining. So because you and I are both jacked up about the playoffs a little bit, we decided we would have a totally unprofessional, unexpert, totally biased episode about the upcoming playoff games this weekend.
I'm willing to be unbiased. The Cowboys suck.
Cowboys, yeah.
That's unbiased.
As well as a couple other teams, right?
Yeah. Any team that's not my team sucks.
Well, let's start. Here's an interesting stat. I want to throw a stat out right from the beginning that is kind of mind-boggling. And here, I'm going to give you numbers. You can tell me what they mean.
Do I have to add?
No, you don't.
Okay, thank God. I'm a lawyer, not a math scientist.
Oh, I hear you. 23, 23, 24, 25, 26, 26, 26, 27, and 29.
What is that? The average age of my girlfriend's when I'm 66?
That is the age of the 8 quarterbacks that are going to be participating in this week's playoff game.
Oh.
I mean, that's incredible. I mean, this could be the year that
I'm sick.
That we've had that major turnover in the history, that you have for eras, I guess you should say. Here we are with the final 8 teams. No Tom Brady, no Aaron Rodgers, Matt Stafford, who quarterbacked the Rams last year to the World Championship. He's not in it. And so now we've got this younger generation of just, stud quarterbacks that are coming up, and none of the old crew is around.
I appreciate you making me feel really fucking old. I mean, because I watch these quarterbacks.
Oh yeah,
they look like grown men to me. For some reason, I still look at them. I go, oh, maybe one day I could be that. But you're right. We don't have Tom Brady in there, who's in his 40s, and frankly, in my completely unbiased opinion, shouldn't be playing in the NFL anymore. You're too old, bro. You're way too old. And I hate your guts. Here's why I hate Tom Brady. Because I'm jealous of him. He's too perfect. I don't like that. I don't like when people are better than me. I have some flaws. Oh, what, you got a divorce this year? Oh, what does that mean? Now I get to go date a supermodel now instead of an older supermodel? All I want.
Rumor is he's already dating another Israeli supermodel. So
all I want for one, just this is the tiniest little ask from Tom Brady. Like, show me like a hairy mole on your arm or something. Just something to where I go, okay, you're not perfect.
Yeah, here's a guy that's like handsome.
Ugh.
Got the great teeth. Yeah, best quarterback of all time. Marries a supermodel. Yeah, he's had it tough for the last 20 years or so.
It's been a rough life. There was Deflategate.
There was Deflategate. Yeah, and then the game after that, they made sure that the balls were inflated, and he threw for like 380 yards and 4 touchdowns.
I'll show you, buddy. All right, so where do you want to start here today?
Right, well, let's start.
Because I don't want to talk any more about Tom Brady.
Me neither. I can't stand him either. So let's start with the Giants in Philadelphia. And just because for me, this is like the fun game in the NFC. And we're going to start with the NFC first because the NFC is boring and the AFC is exciting.
And they're weak.
Yeah, and they're weak. Yeah, so.
We got 7-9 team going for playoffs.
Well, yeah, that's right. Which was Tampa Bay this year, right?
Yeah.
Or 8-9. So Philadelphia is 14-3. The Giants are 10-7-1. And to me, the most remarkable thing about this is how the Giants ever got to be 10-7-1, how they ever even made the playoffs. This is a team that went 4-13 last year. Shed Can, their coach. The coach that they got now, Brian Daboll, looks like, I grew up in Cleveland. He looks like one of the guys that sits out in the dog pound, with a dog mask on and, pounding on the wall and screaming all day long and stuff like that. He looks like one of those guys. He was their offensive coordinator last year.
Don't fetish shame, please.
The Giants last year were 4-13. He was their offensive coordinator. The fans were calling for his head all last year. They were calling for Daniel Jones, their quarterback's head, all last year. They were a horrible team. They were the kind of team that when you're flipping through the channels and you see that the Giants are playing, it's like, what else is on type situation. And what did they do in the offseason? They hardly did anything. Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, like 2 free agents that really didn't have any impact on their season whatsoever. And so they come into this season, they start off slow. Everyone's, again, talking about Daniel Jones, their quarterback, absolutely being horrible. Somehow, some way, they backdoor into the playoffs with a 9-7-1 record. And then they won their first playoff game, so now they're 10-7-1. And it's like with smoke and mirrors. And you look at Daniel Jones' stats and see, like, he threw for like 3,200 yards. They do have Saquon Barkley that is a good running back. And
oh yeah,
he ran.
Is it Saquon or Saquon?
I don't know. Okay, I thought it was Saquon.
We'll just call him Steve.
We'll call him Steve.
All right.
Okay, so Steve ran for 1,300. We're gonna get in trouble over that one.
No, call him not. I hope not.
Yeah, so he ran for 1,300 yards this year. So, I mean, he's a solid running back. And, that's the foundation of any good team. But they didn't even have a 1,000-yard receiver. They didn't have, besides Barkley, really nobody on offense that stands out. Daniel Jones did all right in the sense that he protected the football. He threw for 15 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. But, again, the NFC East, to their credit, was probably the premier division in the NFC this year. And you had a couple really bad divisions, and the Giants pulled off some games against those teams and were able to rack up some wins, and they kind of got into the playoffs. But, you look at who they're playing. I mean, you're talking about the 14-3 Philadelphia Eagles. Jalen Hurts is
oh my God,
great season, and he was hurt for 3 or 4 games there, then with a shoulder injury, but now he's had a week to heal it because they had a bye week, and they got 2,000-yard receivers. They've got a running back that's ran for over 1,000 yards. I mean,
and they got a great coaching staff too. Because think about it, wasn't not too long ago where they won a Super Bowl with a backup quarterback.
That's true. It's true.
Who I think that was Garoppolo, right? Who was that? Who was their backup when they won?
Was that Carson? Well, Carson Wentz was there for a while too. Yeah. And they had some success with him.
Well, he was the injured one, I think, when they won the Super Bowl a few years ago. Remember when? Well, that was when Kevin Hart tried to get on the field drunk as a skunk after they won. Kevin Hart, the comedian.
Kevin Hart
is a comedian. He's about 5'6".
Kevin James?
No, he's black. Kevin James is the big fat white guy.
Yeah.
Kevin Hart, he's.
I don't know Kevin Hart.
Oh, you're old as hell.
I am.
My God, you're old as hell. Anyway, he's a famous comedian. And at the season, he's a big Philly fan, big Eagles fan. When they won the Super Bowl, he was, obliterated drunk. And tried to get up on the stage where they had the Lombardi trophy. And their cameras are watching him. You could hear him going, "Come on, man! It's me. I'm Kevin Hart." He's like, and you can see that the guard's like, "I don't give a fuck who you are. You ain't getting up there at all." And Kevin Hart had to like later on in his limo later tweets, he goes, "This is why you don't drink, fellas." And I can't really fault him. I thought it was hilarious because I can tell you right now, if my team won the Super Bowl and I had the fame and that Kevin Hart has, there is no doubt in my mind that I'd be out there trying to get up on that stage for that Lombardi trophy.
For sure.
But let's talk about how did the Giants do it?
Well, as I said, smoke and mirrors. They had a fantastic schedule because they were 4-13. They had the last year, so their strength of schedule was really weak. They played the Eagles twice, and the first time they played them, they got blown out 48-22.
That's close.
That's close game, nice competitive game. And then they played in the last game of the season. And here's where things kind of get tiny bit interesting. The Eagles had to win that game to seal up home field advantage. And so they started Jalen Hurts. And the Giants actually sat many of their starters because they had already clinched the playoff spot and they had no chance for home field advantage. And it ended up being 22-16 final score with the Giants not playing a lot of their starters.
Well, and oftentimes, though, in games into the season, generally speaking, especially if it's divisional, like NFC, I would think generally you're not showing everything you've got.
Right.
On one side. But, you do Eagles starts Jalen Hurts. Obviously, I would think if, they start to get down, they're going to start opening up the playbook a little bit. Because, they want that number one seed.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And when the game was close, because, it was 19-3 in the fourth quarter, so the Eagles looked like they had it wrapped up, and all of a sudden the Giants, scored quickly, scored 13 points real quick, and all of a sudden they got a game.
Yeah.
And so that makes me wonder, because you've seen this happen before in the NFL where teams start off red hot and then they just start stumbling toward the end, and all that momentum that they built up kind of gets lost. And the Eagles lost 2 of their last 3 and then had this tough game with the Giants. And you got to wonder where their heads are at. They've got A.J. Brown, who in terms of receiving yards, almost 1,500 yards this year. And they've got Devontae Smith, who also had almost 1,200 receiving yards. So, it's on paper.
Yeah.
It should be a wreck. This game should be, you got Jalen Hurts, you got 2,000-yard receivers, and you've got a Giants team that has a good running attack, but the Eagles got a good running attack too. They had Mike Sanders. He ran for 1,269 yards and almost 5 yards a carry. So,
But everybody knows the playoffs hit different.
Well, sure. Who thought Jacksonville was going to beat the Chargers?
Yeah, I tell you who didn't think that. The guy who at halftime put $1.4 million on Jacksonville to lose.
Oh, yeah.
So he put $1.4 million
to win $11,000.
To win $11,000.
Yeah.
Why? You just lost 1.4. So obviously, I don't have $1.4 million. So I guess the equivalent to me would be putting like $1,000 down on Jackson to win 100. Like, why do that? Just so you can win $100? Because if you got $1.4 million to bet, what is $11,000 to you? So either A, you're just a moron who was drunk and accidentally hit the wrong button, or B, you took your entire life savings, so you really didn't have $1.4 million to bet, and you did it anyway because you're a moron.
Well, we're going to talk about Jacksonville a little bit later.
Yeah.
But it's kind of funny because when it was 27-3 at halftime, Donna and I switched to a different show. It was like, there was no way that we never do that during playoffs. Donna and I usually, we get pretty excited about the playoffs. We watch them and get into them, but that was like in a million years could not have conceived that Jacksonville was going to come back and win that game.
That's great. And we'll save the Trevor Lawrence. We'll save the Trevor Lawrence talk.
Yeah,
for the AFC discussion.
So let's focus on Philly and the Giants. Who do you got winning? And why?
So I got Philly winning.
Blowout or close game?
No, it's going to be a blowout. It's going to be an absolute blowout. And you ask me why? Because their uniforms are prettier. That's why. And they're Eagles. That's America. Okay, so yeah, go America. Go pretty uniforms. My wife told me to say that.
And it's in Philadelphia, which is a notoriously tough place to play.
Yeah. So here's what I can guarantee. Win or lose, the streets will be on fire.
That's right. Let's hope they don't win the Super Bowl.
Oh wow, yeah, that was an interesting one. So I mean, so you've got like all the factors you mentioned earlier. You've got two excellent receivers. You've got Jalen Hurts. I think the defense is solid.
Yeah, defense is very solid. I'm looking up how many points they gave up for. So the Eagles gave up 344 points all year, scored 477. The Giants scored 365 and gave up 371. I mean, so you're talking about big differences between offensive production and defensive production from both these teams. I'm with you. I think Philadelphia wins this game. I think they win it big.
Easy.
Should be easy. Should be easy.
I'm talking Jalen Hurts is sitting in the fourth quarter.
It's very possible. It's very possible.
Because the Giants, a lot of the games, like you said, they had a very easy schedule. And they had a lot of close games. There was quite a few games where it could have gone like either way, one play or the other. Whereas the Eagles, I mean, they've been blowing out teams left and right. I mean, there's been some close ones, but my God, the Eagles
they're a complete team.
They are.
Yeah, they got good offense,
for
good defense
for an NFC team,
for an NFC, and playing at home, and and playing at home is a big difference,
especially in Philly.
Well, it is, and you even saw this. You saw this last week in several of the games where the home team crowds were making so much noise. You had delay of game after delay of game after delay of game because you had the opposing teams could not make their audibles at the line, and you saw a bunch of false starts because, again, the lineman can't hear what the quarterback's saying. I mean, at home in the playoffs, especially some of these loud stadiums like in Kansas City, which is just notoriously loud, it makes a difference.
Well, I believe that stadium was designed specifically
Kansas City's
to make it as loud as hell as possible.
Yeah, and they're smart fans, too, because when Kansas City's on the field, you can hear a pin drop.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the opposing team comes out, the offense can't even hear what the quarterback's saying.
Yeah, but Mahomes might get in his own head and blow the whole game up again. So we got the Eagles advancing easily over the Giants.
Next game we got Dallas and San Francisco, which, to be honest with you, I'm looking forward to this game.
Yeah, that's going to be a closer game.
Yeah.
And fuck the Cowboys. Sorry.
Not America's team in my house.
No, not here, not ever. I hate them. I hate them for that reason. I like Jerry Jones, but just because Jerry Jones is, to me, he's the last. He's going to tell you like it is. He's real. Right. Like, yeah, he's has he lost touch with reality a little bit from being a multi-billionaire? Absolutely. But he's a good old boy. I can tell you that right now. There's not a doubt in my mind that he's a good old boy. I still hate the Cowboys specifically because, America's team. And, man, that ain't America's team. Not everybody in America loves the Cowboys.
Well, here's one of the interesting...
and fuck Terrell Owens when he played for the Cowboys. Everything else is fine, but when he played for the Cowboys, I hate his guts.
One of the things that's really kind of interesting is that out of all the teams that are playing in the playoffs in the NFC this week, whether it's the Giants, whether it's the Cowboys, whether it's the Eagles, those three teams struggled coming down the line, losing either the last game of the season or the last game of the season. The 49ers are coming in on a 10-game winning streak.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
they got hot right at the right time.
They did, and their starting quarterback, Trey Lance, to start the year, their first-round pick, he got injured. Jimmy Garoppolo came in, and he kind of had a Baker Mayweather situation at San Francisco.
Mayfield?
Yeah.
Or Floyd Mayweather. I mean, both could apply.
I'm from Cleveland, too. I should know this. Baker Mayfield. And I'm a kind of a Baker fan, so I messed that up. But no, he had a Baker Mayfield situation too, where he was in a 5th-year option year, and San Francisco really didn't even want him to play, and so they played Trey Lance over him, even though Garoppolo took them to the AFC title game last year.
Yeah, and
Lance gets hurt. Garoppolo comes in, he's playing great. He gets hurt. They bring in the third string quarterback, Brock Purdy, and he's undefeated now as a starter, I believe, for San Francisco. Yeah.
Could that be the next Tom Brady? Because you got to remember, Tom Brady, 5th round draft pick, starting quarterback, gets hurt. Let's not forget who the starting quarterback was either.
Well, and the one thing that I really I think about when I think about Brock Purdy, and I've watched a couple of their games, he does not, and this is my total amateur observation from watching 2,000 miles away from the comfort of my couch. He does not look like he's got like NFL velocity when he throws the ball. I mean, there are some guys when they cut it loose, it's a rocket, and they're fitting balls into windows that are small, that only a ball with high velocity and perfect placement gets in there. He does not look like he's got that kind of arm.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't at all. And I don't understand it. So here's what I don't, obviously, if I was an NFL quarterback, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to a 60-year-old guy about the NFL. But when the commentators are like, "Oh, well, that had to be on the back left shoulder, or this happens," I just sit there and go, "Yeah, that's right," and I have no idea. I have no idea what I'm agreeing with here. I'm like, "Sure, yeah, so it had to be there, otherwise this happens." But Brock Purdy, I think part of why he's come in and he's done so well is there hasn't been there wasn't the pressure, right? He had Jimmy G ahead of him, and then I'm blanking right now on his name, but
and Trey Lance
ahead of him. So he probably wasn't getting a lot of reps in practice. There really was no expectation for him to go in there and do what he did, and at all. I think, and when you can go into a situation where you're not being asked to put the game on your shoulders, you're not being asked to carry everybody, I think that does a lot for somebody's mentality. But then the inverse of that is true, is how now that I think the expectation is there, you're undefeated, you basically willed your team to the playoffs. How do you handle the pressure now? Game one, he handled it pretty well.
Yeah, he did. He threw for over 300 yards and played a very good game. And I remember San Francisco last year in the playoffs. Man, they play hard. Their defense hits, and they ran up some incredible stat during the last playoff game that this year the last 15 opponents in the regular season that played San Francisco lost the next game after playing San Francisco, and of course the announcers are making a big deal about that and saying their defense bangs people up, but they only gave up 277 points in the regular season, which is good in today's NFL. I mean that's the lowest I believe in the entire NFC at least. Let me just double check that.
Well, I mean, today's NFL, there's a lot of focus on high-powered offense, and if you can hold a team to 277 points over the course of a season, yeah, I'd say you're doing something.
They're the only team in the NFC that did not allow 300 points or more against their during the course of the season. Now, here's an interesting stat. When Dak Prescott came,
sorry, I just threw up in my mouth a little bit.
Yeah,
I apologize. I apologize. Sorry.
This is going to be a year of proving for Dak. I don't know what happens if Dallas doesn't win as far as he goes, because Cooper Rush put a little pressure on him when Dak had to sit down a few games this year. But
I think that, but I mean, in all honesty, I think that drove Dak Prescott when he came back. I think that drove him. Oh shit! I got to do something, or we're gonna have another Tony Romo situation.
Right. Quarterback controversy. I mean, because Cooper Rush played very, very well in Prescott's absence. But when Prescott came back, that's about the same time that Christian McCaffrey got picked up by the 49ers. And I don't know if you know too much about Christian McCaffrey, but when he first broke into the league,
Former Panther.
With the former Panthers, man, he was on fire. 1,000-yard rusher, great out of the backfield. I mean, this guy was doing everything right. And in the last couple of years, he'd been hampered by injuries.
Mm-hmm.
And he started this year with the Panthers, and they traded they traded him to the 49ers, and the 49ers kind of went all in because they gave up a lot for McCaffrey. They gave up a couple of first rounders, I think, for him. And so what does McCaffrey do? He looks like the old Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah.
He gains 1,100 yards rushing. He's got another 750 yards receiving. And this guy's on fire and, makes the San Francisco general manager look like he's the smartest guy on this planet. But at that point because
when that happened, I mean, there was a lot of talk about why would you give up so much?
Right.
Why are you giving up so much for this kid who can't stay on the field? Used to be good, can't stay on the field now.
Right.
Well, now we know.
Yeah, now we know. And since Prescott came back, and since McCaffrey has been playing with San Francisco and Dallas got the 2 highest scoring offenses in the NFL, and their defenses are ranked in the top 5. So I mean, this game is going to be great. I mean, it potentially could be great.
I think it will.
Yeah, they got a guy in San Francisco, Deebo Samuel. I just love this guy. I mean,
dude, that's a name though.
That's a name. He brings it. I mean, you hear about running backs finishing off runs. This guy finishes off runs. I mean,
he hits hard.
He hits hard. It's like, remember Walter Payton used to be like, you're not old enough to remember Walter Payton.
I've heard the name, I've heard the name.
I mean, Walter Payton would prefer not to run out of bounds and would just lower the shoulder and just blast a dude for an extra yard or two. And this is Deebo Samuel's cut from the same mold. I mean, he runs downhill and he hits people and it's kind of like the personality of this 49ers team. They like to hit. So it's going to be a fun game. And Dallas's defense, what they did against Tampa Bay, if they bring that same kind of intensity, it's going to be a fun game to watch because you got firepower on both sides. I mean, you got Dak Prescott and you got CeeDee Lamb who, had 1,300, 1,400 yards receiving. They've got Dalton Schultz at tight end, who's tough. You got Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard at running back, who are both great 1-2 punch. So you've got this really, really interesting matchup where 2 tough defenses, 2 good offenses, and this is definitely the best game that the NFC is going to have this weekend.
Absolutely, because I think Eagles going to be a blowout. There is no chance at all that Debo's parents, was not a fan of the movie Friday.
Why is that?
Because his name's Debo.
I haven't seen the movie Friday. What's it about?
So there's a guy in the movie Friday named Debo, and he is this giant man. I mean, not like fat, but just extremely, extremely muscular guy who's like the town bully. And that's basically what Debo is. But Debo, I mean, he's the bully in a way, not like in a mean way, but in he will knock your teeth out.
Yes, he will.
In the football sense. Because every time I watch Debo, I just think of Chris Tucker. You got knocked the fuck out. Sorry.
Yeah, and their whole defense flies around the ball too. That's one thing too. When you talk about some of the best defenses that you've seen over the years, those defenses tend to be the guys that they swarm to the ball, and San Francisco does that probably as good as any team in the league right now.
You rarely see one helmet.
Right, exactly.
You get that in it, and they don't miss open field tackles. So rarely, I never like talking absolutes, but they rarely are missing open field tackles. Very rarely. And when they hit you, you better hold on because there's 2 or 3 more coming.
So you got this interesting dynamic where you got McCaffrey and George Kittle, who I didn't really mention earlier, who's one of the best tight ends in the game, and you got Deebo Samuel. It's going to come down to possibly, is Brock Purdy going to be able to hold up to what Dak Prescott does? Is he going to be able to keep the pace with Dak Prescott, or is Dak Prescott going to choke? I hate to say it, but he has choked in some of the playoff games in the past.
Absolutely. Certainly big games have gotten to him in the past. So You asked me, I'm asking you, who do you got?
I like San Francisco. I like San Francisco by 7.
Here's my dilemma. I don't think it's not unclear that I hate the Cowboys. But I also play poker with a guy. I really like this guy, but he's a 49ers fan. And there's nothing I love more. And I've got poker this Saturday. So I really need the 49ers to lose so my buddy will be off his game and I can beat him at poker. So I'm really, really between a rock and a hard place here. But I think that my hatred for the Cowboys trumps wanting my friend to be bad at poker so I can beat him. So I got to go for the 49ers.
Yeah.
By 3.
By 3. 3-7. It's going to be a good game. It'll come down to probably turnovers. Games like this, unless you're Jacksonville, turnovers usually make the difference in these playoff games. And it could be just somebody could make well, look what happened in the Bengals game without talking about it too much. Turnovers are big in the playoffs.
Oh yeah. 17 mile an hour. Sam Hubbard all the way. 98 yards.
All right. Our third game
goes wild. Okay. Sorry. I'm getting excited.
Yeah. Okay. It was exciting. I mean, so now we're moving to the exciting conference.
The good conference.
Jacksonville and Kansas City. And here, I'm going to give you a great stat that I didn't realize.
I'll determine if it's great.
So, unlike the NFC, where 3 of the teams come stumbling and bumbling into the playoffs, here's the last 4 teams left in the AFC. The Bills won their last 7 regular season games. The Chiefs won their last 5 regular season games. The Bengals won their last 8 regular season games. And the Jaguars won their last 5 regular season games. So, I mean, you've got all 4 teams on a roll.
They're hot right now.
Yeah.
Then you got Jacksonville coming back from a 27-point deficit to win 31-30 coming into the Kansas City Chiefs game.
Yeah.
They are hot right now. And so is Trevor Lawrence. He is quite the catch.
I got to say this about Trevor Lawrence because I really disliked him at Clemson, and I'm not sure if it's because of that dorky haircut or just
pretty bad,
or if it's just like that expression on his face, like he just looks like
he's California from Friday Night Lights.
Yeah, whatever. Just something about Trevor Lawrence. That I just never cared for, and he was playing for a loaded team in Clemson, and I'm thinking to myself, shit, this guy, once he gets to the NFL, he is going to flame out.
The next Johnny Manziel?
Oh, at least. And sure enough, last year, with the Urban Meyer debacle and all that, it was just an absolute mess in Jacksonville, and Trevor Lawrence had a bad year, and you're like thinking, no way that this team could even be competitive this year, going through what they went through last year. And they started off 3-7, by the way, and they end up 9-8.
Well, I think they went 7-1 after losing to the Chiefs. I think they went 7-1 after losing to the Chiefs,
and their last 5 in a row.
Yeah,
and so, credit to them. They play in the worst division in the AFC.
AFC South,
but they pulled it off. I thought Tennessee was going to win that division, and not to be. And
not
so
today.
Give them credit. But I mean, you take a look at Jacksonville. They are not without skills. And okay, so I just trashed Trevor Lawrence. So now I'll just say some good stuff about him. The guy,
he's got beautiful hair.
He's going to get a shampoo endorsement from somebody, right?
Dude, he's going to take Troy Polamalu's spot for the Head and Shoulders. I'm telling you right now.
That's right. So he threw for 4,100 yards this year. I mean, that's good for a second-year quarterback. Threw 25 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. 3-to-1 ratio. That's solid.
That's good for any quarterback.
That's good for any quarterback. His running back, his Clemson running back, Travis Etienne, who plays at Jacksonville now. He ran for 1,125 yards this year. So they've got a good running attack. They've got a quarterback that protects the football, throws a lot more touchdowns than he does interceptions, and they've got their receivers are not, they're not household names like Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd, who I don't think anybody would even argue that that's the best 3 wide receivers on one team in the NFL.
I would, because I'm clearly biased, but let's not compare stats.
Yeah, well, so Christian Kirk.
Let's not talk facts. Can we just talk opinions right now?
Yeah, let's talk opinion. The hell with the facts. But I mean, like Christian Kirk. I mean, I never even heard of this guy. He got 1,100 yards receiving this year. Zay Jones, 823, and Evan Engram, who is their tight end, 73 catches, 766 yards, and they got another guy, Mike Jones, I believe is the name, 529 yards. I mean, they've got guys that are racking up some yards. And you're like going, 1,000-yard receiver, 800-yard receiver, a tight end that's solid. They got a running back that's 1,000-yard rushing running back. They are not without weapons. Now, having said that, we're talking about the Chiefs. Yeah, and you're talking about Patrick.
I've never heard of the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Who are they?
I mean, Patrick Mahomes just has, another typical Patrick Mahomes year. Throws for 5,200 yards, 41 touchdowns.
You watch this guy and you go, oh, that's a sack. Nope. 18-yard bomb. Like, it's like he's got this bubble around him. It's like he's got angels just surrounding him, watching out for him. Those sidearm throws?
Yeah.
I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Save some skill and athleticism for other people. Don't take it all.
The arm angles that he delivers balls at sometimes are just, incredible. I mean, he's actually thrown a couple of submarine. They weren't even sidearm. I mean, he went down that low a couple of times, and you're just like going, this is incredible. I mean, this guy he's on a level maybe by himself right now.
Yeah, let's just hope he doesn't go the way, because he was in the same class as Russell Wilson. And they were, when they both came in, they were both kind of being talked about as the best quarterbacks in the league. The only issue is Russell Wilson got a big head on him. Didn't want to be in Seattle anymore. Goes to Denver. Just they fire the coach, and then he wins after that. But Mahomes, it doesn't seem like he's let his fame, let's call it, or his.
He seems really well grounded.
Yeah, it's not getting to him. He's going, okay, well, I'm still the same guy. His brother, on the other hand, has lost his fucking mind.
Well, I think
Patty Mahomes' brother. Oh my gosh, you know that kid?
No, I haven't heard the story.
Oh my god, he is. Here's what I think. Maybe it's like all the bad traits that Patrick Mahomes doesn't have. His brother does. It's like growing up, he's like, okay, you're the perfect one. Okay, you're the pompous, arrogant asshole with no skills, living off your brother's fame. Go. But anyway, let's not talk anymore about that. But yeah, because Patrick Mahomes has done it. He's got a few studs. It's not like he's doing it on his own either.
Oh no, I mean he's got guys like JoJo Schuster-Smith, who played at.
Who I hate.
He played at Pittsburgh for a while.
And I hate his guts.
Yeah. But I mean, he's arguably got
is good.
The best, or maybe one of the best tight ends in the league in Travis Kelce.
No, definitely the best.
Yeah. I mean, he's just great, and here's a kind of, here's these inside stats that you hear about that kind of like makes you go, uh-oh, that's a problem. Jacksonville has given up more yardage to tight ends than any other team in the league this year. And when you're going up against a guy like Travis Kelce and you got a stat like that, that is a problem.
Yeah, they'll I mean, so they already look for Travis Kelce anyway.
Right.
And Kansas City is very aware of that statistic. Because
yeah.
Thing with Kelce is he can beat you long if need be. I mean, he's not running the fastest 40-yard dash, but he's not afraid to go, crossing routes, shallow crossing routes, and just hammer you.
Yes. I mean, he's your classic tight end that, he's not going to try to, juke you out of position. It's going to be, no, I'm going to run right over top of you and get another 4 or 5 yards out of this.
And he's a good blocking tight end too.
Yes, he is. He's a complete tight end.
Let's hope. We got Michael Mayer coming in next season off of Notre Dame. Really good tight end. I think he could start challenging Kelsey for that position. It might take a few years, but we don't have to talk about that. But you've got Travis Kelsey, who doesn't drop balls very often. In Jacksonville, like you said, who gives us so many. Here's my thoughts on this, though, overall, is I think Jacksonville's coming in hot to the season. They had a 27-17 loss to Kansas City in the regular season. Since losing to them in the regular season, went 7-1, won their last 5, came back from a huge 27-0 deficit to win 31-30.
I mean, how bad was that first half? I mean, those interceptions that were thrown were just horribly thrown balls, and then to top it all off, that one punt ends up doinking the one guy in the top of the helmet, and the Chargers recover right down there.
Yeah.
And you're like thinking, this is like watching
watching Pee Wee football.
Yeah, Pee Wee football type game here. I mean, it was really, really bad.
But how bad does it speak for the
Chargers?
The Chargers, that you had a 27-0 lead.
Yeah, 27-3 at half, and all the momentum.
27-3. You don't. Why? I'm sure. I don't know what happened. I have no idea what happened, but I do know this. I think if Patty Mahomes starts making mistakes,
which he doesn't usually do,
but when he does, he has shown that his mental capacity kind of starts to break a little bit, and that heart outer shell. It would happen with the Bengals and the Chiefs after he messed up on a read option play, and they got the whole offensive line running to left. He was supposed to hand it off, keeps it, runs right, and just gets sacked for a loss. Since that play, you started to see you could just see his face. Kind of you saw the will leave his body almost. He still played well, but I mean, when you're an elite quarterback and you have the will leave you a little bit, you still play well, but not to the level that you were playing. So I think if Jacksonville can get Patty Mahomes off his pace, off his game, even slightly, with what they're doing, with what they're coming in hot, I think Jacksonville can win the game. And actually, you know what? I'm going to pick Jacksonville to win by 2.
Jay with the ballsy call, because this one to me could get ugly in a hurry what happened last week against the Chargers, that surely has to be a big confidence builder for Jacksonville, but they're going to walk into one of the most hostile stadiums in the NFL. They are going to be facing the number 1 seed, the team that won a Super Bowl a couple of years ago, team that, is always knocking on the door for the Super Bowl since Mahomes has been there.
And they got a chip on their shoulder too from last year.
Yeah.
The Chiefs do.
And they probably want to, they'd probably love another shot at the Bengals, to be honest with you.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's 3 times in a row the Bengals have beat them, and all 3 games are super close. All 3 games, I believe Kansas City blew double-digit leads.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a good rivalry right now, and I'd love to see that one shape up. But
I don't want to see that.
But I'm going to have to go with Kansas City on this one. And I feel like I'm picking all the obvious picks. I'm not calling any upsets here, but I'm going to say Kansas City by 10.
So you think with your brain, I think with my heart, Paul.
Well, yeah, but the upsets happen, and maybe what you're seeing is a very possible thing.
As I'm saying, I think there's got to be the stars have to align. Like I said, the Jacksonville's coming in hot. If they keep on just at least that pace and are able to get Patty Mahomes off his game slightly, that's gonna be the difference maker. That's how they're gonna win the game. Is you got to get Patrick Mahomes off.
Here's another interesting. I'll throw a couple more stats at
Or
you.
off
Then
schedule, as they say.
Then we can move on to the only game that matters. Andy Reid has a 28-5 record lifetime coming off a bye week. And Patrick Mahomes has a 9-1 record coming off a bye week. Now, those to me sometimes are useless statistics, but I throw that out there for consideration.
There was a time not too long ago where people were doubting Andy Reid's ability to coach a team all the way to the Super Bowl,
which is kind of ridiculous because he turned Philadelphia, which had been a losing team, into a perpetual contender. I mean,
but not a Super Bowl winner.
The coach doesn't throw the ball, catch the ball, or run the ball, but he can put his players in the position to win a game, and Andy Reid does that.
And I think he shut down all those naysayers.
Yeah, sure. Well, sure, and he won with Kansas City.
Winning the Super Bowl with Kansas City. Who day, baby?
Absolutely. This is going to be the fun one.
Oh, my God. I'm so giddy right now. I'm like a little schoolgirl on, like, the first day. I'm so happy, and let's hope I stay that way.
Well, and so when they played 2-3 weeks ago when DeMar Hamlin got hurt,
yeah,
obviously a horrible injury, and glad to hear that he is doing much better. But those two teams came out firing.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, both teams, they look sharp. And I would just love for both teams to be on it again like that and just let the better man win.
Yeah.
Because, man, both teams look like they were just ready to play. And
bullets.
Yeah. I mean, Burrow and Allen looked sharp. The defenses were hitting. The running backs were running hard. And you're like going, whoa, this is going to be a great game. And of course, we had that tragedy happen.
It was, T. Higgins was getting death threats.
I didn't understand that because when you watch that replay, I mean, Hamlin actually tackled him, and
he did what he was supposed to do.
And Higgins put his shoulder down and said, "Okay, I'm gonna get a couple extra yards out of this." I mean, you see that almost on every play where a receiver catches the ball.
A freak accident. Now, I've known plenty of men who had a heart attack come back to live regular lives. And so my question with DeMar Hamlin is, this was obviously a freak accident, and there doesn't appear to be any type of cognitive or issues. Is from a non, I'm not a doctor, but from the outside looking in, I'm like, there's a possibility he makes a full recovery and can play football again. Is that a possibility? Probably not this season, but it seems like a freak accident, 1 in a million shot. It's like, okay, you hit me right at the right time and shut me down. Adrenaline's pumping. Is that something that, okay, you just shake it off and you can play football again?
Well, we probably shouldn't get too deep into what the cause of,
I know where this is
his
going.
situation is.
Get your tinfoil hats out, fellas.
But what DeMar Hamlin had to his benefit is, he was a world-class athlete and in fantastic physical condition, and he got prompt medical attention as soon as it happened. And those guys on the field did a great job. By all accounts, he had 2 cardiac arrests. He had one on the field and another one at the hospital, and he had to be resuscitated twice. And, give all the credit to the doctors and the medical team, getting him back, bringing him back, stabilizing his condition. The fact that he was out of the UC's hospital in a week, I mean, that's not what anybody was thinking. They were thinking it was going to be a long road back for him in terms of rehab.
I think they had the tube out within a couple of days, right?
Yeah. He was up and walking around at the hospital. Yeah. In fact, they had to calm him down because apparently he was watching the Bills playoff game and there was a good play and he jumped out out of the bed and set off every alarm in his room and, and all that kind of stuff. So he was, good enough to do all that. But when he got transferred back to Buffalo, they released him. I believe he's at home.
Yeah, he's at home. He's at home. And this Damar Hamlin, for any woman out there that has ever questioned why a man does what he does or what's going on in your brain, this guy just died twice, wakes up, and the first thing he says is, "Did we win?"
Yeah,
right. Not thank you, Doc. I'm glad to be alive. It's,
or what, or even just what happened.
He said, "Did we win?"
Yeah.
So I was talking to my wife about it. She goes, she couldn't. She go, why? He almost died. I'm like, you don't get it. You don't get it. The guy almost died, and he came back. Of course, he wants to know if they won. And
yeah, most guys would understand that, right?
Yeah, I'm like, I get it, 100%. Did because I've gotten choked out before. Woke up, I knew I didn't win.
That's right.
But I would say hopefully nobody ran into this, but I had a friend who was like, couldn't understand why they wouldn't finish the game. I'm like, dude, shut up. I don't want to talk to you right now about this because, like, okay, they could have finished the game. They could have, but it's not about what they could have done. It's about doing the right thing.
Absolutely, and I think Zach Taylor went over to the coach from Buffalo, and I think they were talking, and I think Zach asked him, what do you want to do? And he goes, right now I want to be at the hospital with my player.
Yeah.
And that's when they both made a mutual decision. And apparently the NFL wanted them to continue the game.
Oh, yeah, they did.
And both teams said no.
Yeah.
And the players, obviously the players were just stunned. And it really, if the NFL had tried to force them to play, they were probably risking someone else getting injured quite a bit because no one's mind was going to be on the game.
It's not, even if, because first of all, let's assume, because I could see them going, you got to play. I could see both sides going, fuck you, I ain't getting out there. I'm not in the right mindset. Make me play. Well, you're going to get fined. Okay, I'll pay the fine. But let's assume NFL makes them. They play the remainder of the game. You think that's going to be a good game? No. You think the attitude, the atmosphere is going to be inducive or conducive to your advertisers who you really, really care about, and no. So
well, we were just talking about how electric that game started.
Yeah, and
there was no way. I mean, you had players that were crying on the field. You had you had both teams on the field praying for Hamlin's health, and you could see by the expressions on their face they were shocked. There's the one shot of Joe Burrow and Josh Allen standing next to each other talking, and Burrow said a couple things to Allen, and you could just see Allen just staring off into space.
Yeah,
I mean, there's no way you could pick that game back up.
Nope, but we kind of are.
Well,
right. As Disney Aladdin said, it's a whole new world.
I think it sounds to me, the rumors are is Damar Hamlin's going to make an appearance at the game.
That's called strategy.
Yeah, right.
This is what it is.
It's going to get the crowd jacked up, that's for sure.
It is. It is. And I can't hate on it.
Yeah, before we talk about the game, what about the decision of playing this game in Buffalo? I mean, there's a good argument that it should be played at a neutral field.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But we're here now.
Yeah. I know they were throwing out the idea that maybe Indianapolis could be used because it's a dome stadium and stuff like that. And but yeah, I guess the NFL's just nixed that. But I know that was what the whole, some of the Bengals were very upset about that whole decision.
Well, they were very upset about the whole Ravens decisions too. That if they didn't win that game, a coin toss would decide whether they'd go. And the rules are very clear. Whoever has the highest win percentage gets home field advantage.
Right.
Well, that would be the Bengals. We're just changing rules mid-season. Roger Goodell's done a lot. He's done a lot for the NFL in terms of marketing and making it bigger and more of a business, I would say. That's how I would say. Roger Goodell has done excellent things for the NFL as a business, but as an entertainment, and from the human aspect of it, I think Roger Goodell lacks significantly. There is no doubt in my mind that he wanted to continue that game and had to be talked out of it.
Well, I'm not even sure he got talked out about it. I think they probably called him up and said both teams are not going to take the field.
Yeah.
Period. And you know what? The Cincinnati fans, I'll tell you what, how cool was that crowd? I mean, that crowd was so respectful of what the situation was. And then when they announced the game was suspended, you didn't hear
Not a boo.
No booing, no, you know, and even the fallout after the game, like when you listen to the sports talk and stuff like that. I mean, Cincinnati really, really showed itself to be a class city.
Which we haven't had the reputation of, because you talk about like the Giants earlier calling for the head, and the Bengals are definitely, the fans have been not the, they don't have the best reputation, and I think overall with the class that I think Zach Taylor has brought to this team, I think that has certainly helped the class of fans up as well.
Right.
Because it also wasn't too long ago where I'd go to an Atlanta Falcon game and they're guaranteed Bengals and the Falcons fans are going to fight. So I think you're right. The way that the fans handle that, not a boo, not a one.
No.
And you would have heard it because it was so quiet in there. Not a one.
And you actually had a lot of fans kneeling and praying too, which I mean, it was just, it's nice to see people rise to the occasion and you know, do the right thing. The players did the right thing. The management did the right thing, and the fans were wonderful.
Yep.
You know, and you know, they all ate those tickets, I suppose. I
don't know, I can't remember if they were refunded or not. Or I'm sure they'll do something for them. But
it'd be nice if they would.
It would. And speaking of doing something for somebody, DeMar had a clause in his contract. If he got put on IR, his pay would be significantly cut. And the Bills and the NFL came to a decision to basically pay him his regular salary, contracted salary, through the rest of the year. And good. I really hope that he can get back out on the field.
Well, you know, I wouldn't be shocked to see that he is, just because, like we were talking earlier, he's an elite athlete. He's in great physical condition, and his recovery was really just stupendous. I mean, he really, 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 you know, came back strong from this. So hopefully, you know, if that's what he wants to do. I know his charity now. I mean, he could probably administer his charity now for the rest of his life, because his charity got millions and millions and millions of dollars donated to it. And you know, that was his charities for children, by the way, and disadvantaged children. And I think they said it had like $3,000 in it before Hamlin got injured, and now it's got over 10 million, I think. So yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and again, people responding in a very positive way.
And with all that being said, I hope we kick the living shit out of the Buffalo Bills.
Well, and so yeah, and so here's the thing that really, really bothers me, because when I look at matchups, everyone talks about Josh Allen, and yeah, he's a fantastic athlete. Sometimes he thinks he's a middle linebacker and he's going to run over people. He does some amazing throws. He's got a cannon and all that. The guy's been a little bit of a turnover machine this year.
Yes, been throwing quite a few picks, especially in the postseason.
Yeah,
because he seems to feel like he's got to make that play. I mean, he's kind of a younger quarterback, and you hear that a lot from a lot of younger quarterbacks. You know, you don't have to make sometimes throwing the ball away is the best thing to do. And right. he seems to
try to jam it in there.
And he's a great scrambling quarterback. And he's great at throwing on the run, but he's got, I wouldn't say a hero complex, obviously, but he feels like, I get the feeling that he's putting the game on his shoulders, and that's where a lot of the picks come from.
Well, he threw 14 interceptions in 16 games. Of course, they played one game less than normal. Threw two more against Miami. That's 16 picks. He's also given up 6 fumbles this year. That's 22 turnovers for a quarterback. That's not for, you know, those are not elite quarterback numbers.
No.
You know, and for him, it's probably his worst year out of the last three. And of course, he's got some great targets. I mean, he threw for 4,200 yards this year. Stephon Diggs is number one choice of wide.
So good.
Oh, 1,400 yards receiving, and that's the guy that the Bengals need to not have burn him, because if you can somehow slow down Diggs, the next best wide receiver they got is Gabe Davis, who had 836 yards receiving. Not bad.
Not bad.
Not bad. But that's not Stephon Diggs, all pro numbers.
No.
So that's what they've got to do. Their running game, it's so-so. They got Devin Singletary at 819 yards rushing, and James Cook, who had 507. Those aren't great numbers. I mean, Joe Mixon and Samaje Perine make a far better running tandem than that.
And Joe Mixon hasn't had a great season either.
No, he hasn't.
He was injured. He did have that injury. And then Samaje comes in, and I mean,
I thought he did good.
He gave Mixon a run for his money. Samaje came in and said, "You be careful, Joe. I might take your job."
Oh, I think we're seeing the transition possibly in process. I mean, Mixon still ran for over 800 yards this year, and he missed a couple games where Samaje, basically took most of the snaps. Samaje got 394 yards, but he actually had more yards per carry than Mixon did.
Because what you see, Samaje is he gets downhill quick, and you've seen Joe Mixon this year hesitate a little bit and try to bounce things outside, and he's not quick enough to really bounce things outside like that
anymore.
Yeah, used to be, but Samaje Perine, he runs downhill.
Yes, he does,
and
for some reason, a load.
Oh yeah, and he lowers his pads and hits you. I don't know why he looks 45.
He does, right?
he looks. I'm like, you supposed to be in this league, old fella.
It's like that kid down in Texas, was he? He was 13 years old. Looked like he's about 35.
I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Dude. Ain't no way. If you're 13, you got a full mustache with a tattoo, ain't no way you're 13.
Yeah. And wrinkles.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was like, what? 13?
But then you hear him talking like, oh, you're 13. Man, yeah. So I think you've got Samaje, and you talked earlier, we've got the weapons.
Oh, yeah. 2,000-yard receivers, and Tyler Boyd, who I thought was around 760 total yards receiving. I mean, shit. T. Higgins would be a number one receiver for probably half the teams in the NFL.
Yeah.
And Tyler Boyd would be, a prime target. They got a guy like, what's the one guy, Trent Irwin?
Yep, Trenton Irwin.
Oh my gosh, he gets in on
good slot receiver,
and he gets 100 yards receiving in a game because Jamar was out and T. Higgins was out with a concussion, so he got some playing time and
big time plays,
and he gets 100 yards receiving. So I mean, you're the Bengals, I think, have the best wide receiver core in the NFL. Just absolutely
from a overall package.
Yeah, and they got Hayden Hurst at tight end, who I think is solid, if not maybe even a little bit better than solid.
And he was with
who's with the Ravens?
With the Ravens, drafted, let go. And he wasn't being used the way he wanted. I don't think he was happy with the Ravens anyway. And the Bengals,
he was backing up Mark Andrews.
Yeah. So what are you gonna do?
Right.
Sorry, buddy.
Yeah.
It's Mark Andrews.
Yeah.
But because you see the Bengals spread around because Joe Burrow he'll throw it to you if you're open. You're getting the ball.
Right.
And yeah, is he looking for Jamar? Is he looking for T? Yeah, he is, but he's very quick on his reads, very good at understanding what defense he's bringing. And one thing that we're coming into the Bills game with is a very, very, very battered offensive line.
And that is my concern for this game, because if there's been an Achilles heel for 2 seasons now with the Bengals, it is this O-line. And for the last 8 games prior to this recent rash of injuries, it looked like they had it solved.
They did.
And that's when they went on this big winning streak. And they ran the stats up there about how many sacks he had the first 8 games of the season as opposed to the last 8 where, they were like second or third in the league and least amount of sacks allowed during this winning streak. But now they got 3 starters. They're probably not going to play.
Yeah. But
and that left tackle position is the most important position on the line. And the guy, Jonah Williams, who they had playing there already, was not exactly lighting the world up.
No.
And now they got a guy that's backing him up, going to be at left tackle.
Yeah. And I mean, but here's my counter to that. We did it last year with worse. Our O-line last year was horrendous.
It was.
So I think if we want to win this game, it's going to be, I don't think you're going to see a whole lot of 20-plus yard passes. I think you're going to see a lot of quicks, a lot of shallow crossers, the occasional deep ball. If we get an extra lineman in there, extra eligible receiver, extra blockers to keep Joe safe. But I think the majority of the game, I don't think you're going to see the electricity that you saw in the last game when the Bills. And then I think the Bengals understand we're not going to have the protection.
Well, the Bengals this year are 0-3 when Burrow gets sacked 5 or more times a game. And we were talking about Samaje Perine earlier. Samaje Perine picks up blitzers much better than Joe Mixon.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he sticks his nose in there and stones blitzers. I mean, stops them right in their tracks. Joe Mixon's never been a tremendous pass blocker.
No, not. I wouldn't even say. I would say like subpar even. He is a great runner, great running back, but you want Samaje in there to protect Joe. As far as blocking running back goes, I say Samaje gets more snaps than Joe. It depends. I mean, a lot of factors depend. If we're running the ball well, you're going to see Joe Mixon in there a lot more. But I think if we get down and we need to start passing the ball, you're seeing Samaje in there.
Yeah,
over Joe Mixon.
And that would be the smart move.
But I don't care what the stat. I'm picking the Bengals.
I'm picking the Bengals too, just because that's where my heart wants to go. What kind of score are you giving it?
Bengals 85, Bills 2.
I'm gonna go a little closer. Even though, and by the way, the Bills defense also allowed less than 300 points this year. They're the only team besides the 49ers to do that. So their defense is pretty stout.
We were lighting them up.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Joe Burrow was 4 for 4, and he had a perfect quarterback rating. I think it's perfect 158.1 or something like that. So, I mean, yeah, that Joe Burrow came out looking good. Now, he did not look good against Baltimore. And there's been a couple times this year where he's been out of sync, but Baltimore can do that to you just because
it's divisional.
It's divisional. They know each other so well, and it's the third time they've played this year. They just played a couple weeks before that, and Baltimore is always, they've got that very physical, very tough defense. So having a tough game against Baltimore is nothing to be ashamed of. But it's going to come down to the O-line. Are they going to be able to protect Joe? Are they going to be able to open up lanes for the runners? I mean, these guys, if they can't establish the running game, then you're going to have Buffalo's defensive line just pinning their ears back, and they're going to be coming after Burrow, and that's going to be a problem.
Your play action passes don't work. Read options.
They're not going to respect the play action.
No,
if the O-line can't make the run get established. So definitely you're going to have a situation where, early on, and especially, and I think everybody in Cincinnati is going to be watching, and it's like, oh gosh, I hope the offensive line holds in. Now, if they hold in, and I think they will. I'm gonna pick the Bengals 24-21.
You know what? Like I said, you think with your brain, I'll think with my heart.
Yeah, I'd like 84-2. I'd prefer that one.
There'd have to be a safety in there, but that was not going to look good for us. But who dey? I think we're an hour. Holy crap, man! I look at the timer. I was like, we're an hour and 10 minutes into this, and you're like, when you call me, you're like, yeah, we'll make it a little shorter. Just talk football. I'm like, yeah, man, that sounds good. 30, 40 minutes. Boom, it's an hour later. I love talking to you, Paul.
I love talking to you, Jay. This is a good time.
All right. So, once again, If you want to tell us how wrong we are and how the Cowboys are great, whatever, how we got here, JP at gmail.com. That's HOWWEGOTHERE, JP at gmail.com. Any, criticisms, text Paul directly. Message, he'll answer you. Don't worry about it. Until next time, probably, I don't know. I have no idea when. Like I said, we're trying to do every other week here. This is more impromptu. Not really a how we got here episode, so to speak, but we had to talk about it because Who Dey, baby. Go Bengals.
Go Bengals.